Okay, I want to just begin where Emily left off and really commend her for her bravery and her courage. Beijing's proposal to impose national security legislation on Hong Kong in the aftermath of the arrest of 15 pro-democracy activists and legislators constitutes yet another frontal assault on the rule of law, the criminalization of fundamental freedoms protected under Hong Kong's basic law, and politicized prosecutions under the cover of the global pandemic. It reminds us also of another assault on the rules-based international order, the CCP's cover-up of its complicity in the spread of the global pandemic, its suppression of information, its arrest and disappearances of doctors and dissidents, and its global disinformation cover-up campaign. In cover-up, and it is Hong Kong's media that runs the risk of persecution and prosecution under this imposed national security legislation, which is also a breach, and Emily's made reference to this, a breach of the Sino-UK Declaration, which has the status of an international treaty. Moreover, an even more egregious extension of the culture of corruption, criminality of Beijing, let alone the impunity which has attended it, into and which has not received the notice and indeed outrage that it warrants, is the state orchestrated incitement against the protesters, against the peaceful protesters, as being themselves a political virus, as being what are referred to as a malignant poison, reminiscent of the state orchestrated incitement against the Uyghurs, who also have been referred to as a malignant virus and infection. Yet another case study of the frontal assault on the rules-based legal order and on the rule of law. Indeed, the assault on the democracy movement in Hong Kong, the assault on the freedom and protection for the Uyghurs are but two of the looking glasses into the existential threats to freedom and democracy in Hong Kong and to safety and security and freedom for the Uyghurs. But it does not end with these two compelling existential threats. We have also, and reference has been made to it in this conference thus far, we have also the repression and displacement of the Tibetans. We have the ongoing persecution and prosecution of the Falun Gong. And we have also the menacing threats to Taiwan. And where Beijing is engaged in an unrelenting assault on media freedom, as described earlier, as well as an assault on the very institutions that are intended to protect the international order. And so the question arises, what is to be done? What is the action that can be taken? Let me summarize, by way of conclusion, a series of initiatives and actions that can be taken. You mentioned, Terry, in your opening remarks, the recent establishment of an inter-parliamentary alliance on China. This involves now parliamentarians from 9 global parliaments who have come together to mobilize a constituency of conscience for the protection of a rules-based international order, for the protection of universal human rights, for the protection of those under assault that we have referenced thus far, for the protection of our democracy's national security and integrity from foreign Beijing threat and the like. Number 2, the proposal recently initiated by, among others, the chair of our Foreign Affairs Committee in Canada, Michael Levitt, along with other foreign affairs committees, for a UN special envoy to protect the rights and freedoms of the Hong Kong people. Third, the need to hold the CCP, and I always want to distinguish between the Chinese Communist Party, its leadership, and the people of mainland China and others who are the targets, the Chinese who are the targets of this unrelenting repression. And what we are witnessing as a dramatic case study of it, for which they must be held accountable, is the incarceration of 1 million Uyghurs in detention, their abuse in forced labor, the assaults on their traditions and their religion, the whole constituting what the editor of the Washington Post has called it, every day is Kristallnacht for the Uyghurs, and one of the worst atrocity crimes of the 21st century. And Nuri has described this compellingly in his remarks. An end to the prosecution and persecution of the Falun Gong, the criminalization in an ongoing way of their belief system, of their belief in truth and compassion and tolerance. And they have been the primary victims of illegal organ harvesting, which a recently established China Human Rights Tribunal under the chairmanship of Jeffrey Nice referred to as crimes against humanity being committed against the Falun Gong and others who've been the targets. And this has included the Uyghurs here as well. Number 5, an end to the displacement and dispossession and repression of Tibetans and the menacing of the Taiwanese. We need to stand together with Tibetans and Taiwanese, just as we continue and must stand together with our fellow Democrats and the people of Hong Kong, with the persecuted Falun Gong, and with those who are threatened and whom Beijing lists as the 5 poisons, but whom we have to relate to and organize with and protect as the 5 protections. Number 6, hold Beijing accountable for the massive assault on media freedom described earlier, which is the fulcrum for a rules-based democratic order, as well as for the respective democracies. Number 7, protect the integrity of our international institutions under increasing disproportionate and prejudicial influence by Beijing, be it the WHO, the World Bank, WTO, the UN Human Rights Council, and others. Number 8, impose, and reference has been made to this, so I'll just mention just briefly, impose targeted Magnitsky sanctions on human rights violators to protect the people of Hong Kong and others under assault. Let us remember that Magnitsky sanctions are not directed against any particular country or government. They're directed against the gross human rights violators, and we must stand in solidarity with their victims through the targeted Magnitsky sanctions. Number 9, an independent, impartial, comprehensive investigation of the CCPs responsible for the spread of the pandemic and the utilization of a panoply of remedies that are available for that purpose. And finally, we need an effective international alliance of the now wokened community of democracies, those who up to now have unduly indulged or acquiesced in or turned a blind eye to these massive human rights violations. It's our responsibility now to seek justice for the victims and accountability for the violators. Thank you, Mr. Chair.